When I was about 5 years old, Laurel and Hardy and Hal Roach Studios, of course, were filming on all of the streets that surrounded my home. They used Bologna Creek. They used Motor Avenue. They used Cheverett Hills. And so when we got out of class, why, we would watch them shooting. And I, of course, would walk up to the studio and have fun watching the stars and various dignitaries and celebrities coming in and out of the studio on Washington Boulevard. That's where the main entrance was. So none of us kids in Culver City could escape the desire to someday be part of all of this magic. So I went to grammar school and on to Hamilton High School, and had the good fortune to start working at MGM October 10th, 1942. Because of my background, business background from high school, taking shorthand and typing and everything else, to come up to Eddie Manick's office and be the second secretary. From then on, I became familiar with all of the executives and worked there for 15 years with Mr. Mannix at the studio. We came in contact because he was head of operations at the studio and the second-hand man to Mr. Mayer. And I saw Kiss Me Kate being filmed, and Howard Keel and Kathryn Grayson and in one of their wonderful numbers. And also Bob Fosse, who became a person of renown on Broadway. He was just one of the dancers on that film.
And
he was with Bobby Van, sort of in the background. He played a small role, and he eventually went back to Broadway, became a wonderful entrepreneur and director, and married a girlfriend of mine, Gwyneth Verdon from Culver City. And I grew up with Gwyneth, went to grammar school and high school with her, took dancing from her mother. Her father was an electrician at MGM. And she became a big star with Damn Yankees. Hal Roach started a band. And Hal Roach enjoyed things like that. They all had uniforms, and they stood outside of Culver Studio, as it's known today, that Thomas Ince started. And they'd play a concert, and they played in front of City Hall. And he loved anybody that lived in Culver City enjoyed showbiz. That's another point I want to mention. So many people think that the studio system and the motion pictures failed because of the competition of television. That was part of it in the 50s, because television came in around 48, 49, 50. But Eddie Mannix, who was so smart, he told me that in 1948, the Supreme Court had an antitrust suit against the studios, which separated the studios from their distribution, from their theaters. That's what started the demise of the big motion picture companies. 20th Century Fox had a chain of theaters. MGM had Lowe's theaters. Paramount had the Paramount theaters. RKO had the RKO theaters. They produced and they released. So they had control of the time features were spent in the various theaters. When they divorced them from their theaters, that was the beginning of the demise of. Arthur Freed discovered Judy Garland. Someone brought her into the 1A. He didn't want to see a youngster like that sing, because he thought, not something like that. But he heard her sing, And he ran from that stage all the way to LB Mayor's office and said, "You must drop everything. Come and hear this youngster." So he had the talent to recognize what she had to offer. Besides Arthur Freed's unit, which was very exciting, we had numerous stars that came up to our office. They would have a fit down on the set, and they would call Mr. Mannix immediately when there was any difficulty with one of the stars or one of the directors or anything. And he'd say, "Have them come right up." And one was Lucille Ball. She blew her cork one time over some incident on stage with the director, and he said, "Have her come up." So she went. They all liked Eddie Mannix because he just solved things right now. If they ever had any problems, they knew who they could come to. And she came up, and she came in the door. She was just fuming. And we had all double doors. You couldn't hear what was going on inside at all. They were all double security doors. And he went in, and he said, he poured her a drink, and Mr. Mannix had a drink, and they sat down and talked about the problem. And he says, okay. Made a call to the set. It's all taken care of. So anyway, she came out smiling and went back to work.